Hey guys, it's Aaron here from Students Explore Australia. Now, there's 3 things that you need to consider before setting up a tent and when you're picking a campsite. So 1, don't camp on top of anthills or animal burrows. Number 2, make sure that, particularly in Australia, you're not camping under any really big gum trees that have dead overhanging branches or any branches that are dried out because they can fall. And the third one is to not camp in any rivers or any areas that look like they might get flooded if there's a lot of rain or if there's any sort of flash floods. So firstly, you'll get it in a case or in a bag just like this. So you've got the actual fly sheet, which it's generally wrapped around. Then you've actually got your tent as itself. So to set up the tent, all you need to do with these ones is just basically fold it out. So they're an easy setup tent. Okay, so it's all spread out into 4 corners. You can extend the legs. And then you can extend the legs even more. So on the first one, you can pull it out nicely just like that. It might not click on the first one, but just extend it like that nicely. And on the second one, you should be able to get it to the point where it actually clicks. That one's just clicked. There we are, so they're all clicked into place now. So the next thing that we need to do is basically just get the pegs out and then just peg it into place. Alrighty, so in the actual tent bag, you're going to get a peg bag as well, full of pegs. Really, we only need 4. So we just only peg out the 4 corners. Now, an important thing I usually like to just mention as well is that you shouldn't be putting your pegs straight down through the hole or parallel to the actual bar, but you should always be putting them at a 45-degree angle, basically like that. Because if you put it parallel to the bar or straight up, then it's really easy for the actual peg to just pull out. But if you put it at a 45-degree angle, then it's going to be nice and secure. If you want to, you can either use a rock if you don't have a hammer with you, or you're welcome to use your feet as well. So basically peg out all 4 corners. What I like to do is just basically pull a little bit on this one against the other peg that I've just pegged down, and that way it's going to be nice and tight, and it will give you a good amount of space inside as well. Alrighty, so that's all done now. So the next step is to put your fly on. Now, different tents come with slightly different flies, but the main thing to do is to, if you've got a tent fly that basically covers the entire body of the tent, is to just make sure that you get the actual tent door and the fly door aligned. That way you know it's going to be in the right position. And just have a look on it and see if you can actually find the zips. So I found a zip here, and I found another zip next to it. There we are. So what I'm actually going to do is align these zips with the actual tent zip as well. And with this particular model of tent, they've actually got a clip at the corner of each fly and the corner of each tent, each part of the tent. So all you need to do is basically just clip it in. Now usually this is a 2-man job, but you can basically use this technique using the 2 clips as anchor points at the start if you've only got 1 person. So now that they're both clipped in, we can basically just take the actual fly and toss it over and see if we can get it to align. You can tighten the actual tent fly, or you can loosen it up with using these straps. You just need to pull them tighter or looser as you like. Like I said, if it's windy, then you can actually peg down this fly itself. But in this situation, we don't really need to because it's a great day today. So once it's all set up, what I generally recommend is to put in the bag and the spare tent pegs, and there's some awning poles as well that it might come with. Any spare parts, you can just put them inside the tent. That way they're kept safe and secure and you won't lose them. Okay, and that's how you set up your tent. All right, so you're now ready to go, and you want to pack up your tent. So there's a couple of things to consider. The first thing is to make sure that the actual tent is not wet. So even if it's a little bit damp, that is a concern. So we really need to make sure it's dry. If it's not dry, has a little bit of dampness or a bit of moisture, just let one of our guides know, either if you're on camp or if you've hired the tent, then just let the guy know when you return it. And apart from that, of course, just make sure that it's clean inside as well. So give it a nice sweep and make sure there's no sort of mud or dirt or anything like that inside the tent as well. So firstly, we're going to just take the clips off to take off the fly. Now with the fly, after we pack up the tent, we're going to be rolling the tent in the fly. So what I generally like to do is, hopefully it's not a windy day for you, but just fold the actual fly over. So that's good enough. Okay, so after you've taken the fly off, grab all your things, so the accessories of the tent from inside the tent. You just want to basically collect the actual pegs. So if it's particularly hard ground, then the challenge is just to get the first one, because after you've got your first one, then you can pretty much use the actual tent's peg itself to get the other tent pegs. So you can pretty much just use it as a tool and it will come out hopefully a lot nicer and easier. Actually, before you put them aside, if you're done with the tent peg bag, then you can close it up nicely. Okay, so the tent's nice and loose. Basically what you need to do is unclip it from here. So these ones are a nice model, they've just got a nice red button. So that will just collapse there. Same on this side, press the button, collapse it down, and do the same for all four corners. But generally I like to keep the actual door open. That way it allows air to actually go out. So it's sometimes harder to collapse the tent when the air is trapped inside. So I usually like to keep the door open. Okay, so now that it's all collapsed, I generally just like to fold it in. And then, again, fold the actual legs themselves in as well. Basically what you can do now is roll the tent in the actual fly, and then hopefully if that's done nice and tight, it will go into the bag a lot easier. So place it right in the middle of your tent fly line, and then you can pretty much just start rolling. Now what I like to do as well, obviously you don't want to do it with too much force, just considering the actual structure of the tent and not to break it, but I like to generally secure the tent with my knees when I'm actually rolling, and that way it just helps keep the air out of it and helps keep it nice and tight. And to give the tent as much space as we can, generally I like to take out any other accessories or ropes or awning poles, the peg bag, and then all I do is I generally take one of the sides, put it in, push it right to the very end of it so it's nice and tight, and you can already see that this is going to fit in quite nicely. So because we've done the right technique, it fits in nicely. It's going to be a pretty easy zip to actually go in. So we're not sort of stressing really hard, because if you stress really hard, then it's going to put pressure on the zip. And then that way you know you haven't really packed it away properly. So don't forget the awning poles, and of course the pegs themselves as well. Okay, and there you have it. So that's an easy up, instant 4-man tent.